Facebook Live event where the WKU Office of Admissions sits down with current professors and answers your questions. My name is Lindsay White, and I'm an admissions counselor here at WKU. Our focus is to ensure that incoming students not only have a good understanding of the admissions process, but to also provide insight into what an actual WKU classroom is like. And what better way to provide that insight than to sit down with some of our professors, have a conversation about those classrooms. So if you have any questions about what a college class may be like, make sure to comment below your questions and we will be sure to answer them. But before we dig in, I would love for a chance for our guests to have an opportunity to introduce themselves. If you wouldn't mind, let us know a little bit about who you are and some of the classes that you teach.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first. My name is Aurelia Spalding. I am a part-time faculty with the University College. So I work full-time in our Division of Public Affairs, but I teach a first-year class called University Experience that most first-year students take when they're here at WKU. But I also teach a seminar in social justice course as well as Introduction to Leadership Studies.
Okay, very nice.
And my name is Bruce Kessler. I'm a math professor and I'm department head of mathematics. And most recently I've taught mathematical modeling, but I'm currently teaching a course called computational problem solving. So these are fun courses where we take weird situations and try to model them with mathematics or figure out a solution using computer science and programming. So I have a lot of fun with that. I'm in my 27th year at WKU.
Woohoo, yeah.
And
congrats.
Graduated from WKU many, many years ago.
Yay, go Tops, me too, I'm so old.
Yes, it makes three of us.
Yes. So a very common question that we get for students, especially freshmen coming in, you're probably going to experience a lot of this with that University Experience class, is what should students bring their first day? Are they just going to jump right into all the material? Give us a typical idea of what a first day is like and what they should bring to that first day.
Well, I'll go ahead and take this one. Each faculty member has a syllabus, which is available on TopNet, and maybe not right now a student, they may not know what TopNet is, but online the syllabus is posted for each class, and usually the class has a list of the textbook that's needed, any course materials they should bring to class, but they'll find that their instructors are usually pretty understanding, so I would definitely bring at least some paper and something to write with to class. If they don't use paper, have some type of mobile device that they can use.
Okay, yeah.
I would agree. First day is typically a fairly light content day because we want to go over the syllabus and make sure that everyone's on the same wavelength for the course. I will occasionally just throw out, does this sound okay? And make sure that they understand, part of what we do on the syllabus is make sure that they understand how we're going to grade them, what our learning objectives are, what our expectations are of them as far as attendance and homework and things like that. So that's a good time to have a little bit of a conversation about what we expect of them. And if that takes the whole time, then so be it. If not, we typically launch in and start. I like to get them started thinking on some of the things we're going to do during the semester.
Yeah, absolutely. And she mentioned, for those of you guys who are watching, that there is the TopNet account. And if you are coming in for the fall of 2018 as a freshman, you don't need to worry about worrying where that syllabus is. You haven't registered for your classes yet, so that's not going to be available to you until you attend orientation and get registered for classes. So over the summer, that's when professors will start to post those syllabi. I never want to say syllabuses, so that's not correct.
Right.
Syllabi.
But I will say this, Lindsay, if students want an idea of what we're talking about, anyone can go to the WKU schedule of classes. Just click under, I think it's academics, and you'll see schedule of classes. And you can go to the classes we're offering this semester and download a syllabus, just a sample of what we typically post. And then you'll see what we're looking for there.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Good point for me, too. That's very, very good. And you also mentioned about a University Experience class. What is that class? What can freshmen expect to gain from that class?
That class is a great introductory class to university, which kind of ties into the name University Experience. So students will learn many different skills that will prepare them for success in college. Everything from knowing how to use the library, the databases to research information, everything from financial planning, campus resources, They will learn how to study, study skills for exams as well as note-taking. All of the key information that we have found will help a student be successful at the university and continue to persist year after year.
That's very wonderful, yeah.
And if I can kind of, and I'm not being paid by the housing folks to say this, I promise, but another good thing along those lines is master plan before school starts up in the fall. That's another good way to kind of get some of that same information and learn your way around campus, perhaps make some friends and some folks to share classes with and study with and things like that.
And both of those opportunities are just such great opportunities, like you said, to meet other students that are in a very similar spot to where you are. So definitely some benefits there. I honestly, when I've been visiting my schools, the next question that we get, I hear this all the time, is what if I am too sick to come to class? How do you deal? We don't have mom to call the principal now. It's their responsibility. What are some of the policies that you have in place in your courses for both of you?
Do you want to take this one first?
I can address how I would answer that question, and that is, please stay away. Don't make the rest of us sick, especially if it's something contagious. Now, if you ate some bad sushi, you know, still stay away because I don't want to clean up after you. But I tend to do things where if a student can't be there, they can make up the difference. I post the way I do notes in class. If I'm talking, is I'll have a doc cam and I write my notes as opposed to writing on a whiteboard. So I take those notes when I'm done, scan them, and place them on Blackboard, which I'm throwing a lot of terms at you, but Blackboard is our in-class kind of portal, where we can post things and even have discussions if we wanted to. So I do that. If it's a class where we're doing a lot more content kind of things, when I post those notes, I'll also sometimes do a video recap of the lecture I had that day. So there's ways for them to catch up without necessarily being there. Now, the one thing you can't do, I'm not advocating not coming to class. The one thing you can't do with those things is ask questions. Right? So I think those are important, that attendance in class is important so that you can ask questions.
To participate.
But if you're too ill to be there, you do have ways to catch up.
I love how you added in videos. I thought I was tech savvy, so I'm going to have to add that to my course. I'd also like to add in there that, each instructor has their attendance policy on their syllabus. So a student will know how many days they can miss without it counting against them in any way. But definitely let your professor know, especially if you have that relationship and you want to make sure that they're aware and they can tell you what you're going to miss. So that's important. And since Bruce brought up health, make sure they know, all of our students need to know that we have our health services on campus. So if they are feeling ill, they can go to Graves Gilbert on campus and get checked out.
And is that the same policy, that kind of lax policy, just for a regular class day as it is for, say, a test day?
Good question.
Does it differ?
My policy on tests would be just let me know ahead of time. As long as you're letting me know ahead of time and you've got a decent reason. Actually, I don't mind giving tests early, as long as I have time to prepare them. I don't like giving them late. And I don't like not knowing where you are on test day. So as long as I know, let's say you have a appointment to meet the Pope on test day. Don't cancel that. But I will give it, with enough notice, I'll give you the test early and let you do that. It does get a little funky when you show up, 2 or 3 class meetings later. It's like, oh, dude, I missed the test. Well, I've already handed them back, so that's done. We're through with that, right?
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add there. Like it's definitely, each professor is going to handle that differently. And there will be some professors that won't let you make up a test. So
or
the student needs to keep that in mind.
require a letter from the doctor or something like that. I think that was a really common thing, absolutely. Now, how many times can a freshman expect to have a class during the week as a freshman? So are they going to be in class, how they were in high school, 8 a.m. to 2:30 every day? How many times can they expect to be in the classroom?
Well, that's going to depend on the class. We do have bi-term classes, and those take place Monday through Friday. But we also have our Tuesday, Thursday classes, which are hours, twice a week,
Yes.
and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which are 3 times a week. But we also have our night classes, and many of those are just one night a week. So it's going to depend on what the student registers for.
And they could also possibly have some web classes,
Yes.
which takes a lot of dedication because it's, in many cases, it's on you to make sure you're doing the work. There's no one standing over you making sure you're doing the work.
Yeah.
The big change that I see though is that students from high school expect to be there a certain time and leave at a certain time, and not leave the premises while they're there. That's all out the window. That's not the way this runs at all.
Yeah, I kind of liked when I finally got to college, and it was like if the professor didn't have anything else, I didn't have to be forced to do some sort of random worksheet or watch, I don't know, the October Sky, if you knew that movie.
Yeah, I know that
watched
movie.
that like every class, I swear. So
When
it's
Jake
kinda
Gyllenhaal
nice.
was a child, I do remember that movie.
Yes. So I think that it's kind of nice that a professor's like, yeah, I'm done. That's all I have today. So it's very convenient. I also really liked, I always did a night class, like Monday. So I'd get my whole course done in one day at 1 week. And I always enjoyed that because I'd rather just stay focused than try to break it up. So, but then you got to remember everything for the next Monday. So, yes. Now, what can a freshman expect coming in? Is there any special advice that you have for an incoming freshman?
Ooh, I think I have about 5 key points that I tell my students about 2 or 3 weeks in, if I can remember them all.
Yes, yes.
One of them is go to class.
Yes.
You got to tell, many of us need to hear that all 4 years. Go to class is going to be your key to success here at WKU. Get to know your teachers is really important. And when I say get to know, I mean know their name, make sure they know your name, and you're comfortable emailing them and visiting them during office hours. Study. So take good notes, and studying is very important. And if you find difficulty with that, we have our learning centers, so there's places you can go to get assistance with that, and you can also work in groups. I would also recommend finding a mentor on campus.
Yes.
So if you find a faculty member or someone in our student affairs division that you really connect with, find a mentor, someone that can hold you accountable. And connect with people who are positive around you. And then last, know when to say no. That is so important. No, I can't go out tonight with you guys, or no, I need to study. I'm not going to go off campus to eat right now. Just knowing when to say no is really important.
I have a very math-centric kind of answer to that. One of the biggest mistakes I see with students coming campus as freshmen, even very good students who have had AP credit in calculus and things like that, is that they will not take a math class their senior year. And that allows your math skills, the skills that you at one point had down, algebra and so forth, trig, to atrophy. And that's a rough beginning when you jump into your first math class on campus, doing things that you remember vaguely doing, but it's not fresh to you. So I may be talking not to seniors now who are already skipping out of a math class their senior year, but certainly it's good advice. I think it's good advice for everyone. If you're going to end up most likely having to take some math classes or a math class to do something that senior year, even if it's algebra 2 in high school, do something so that those skills are fairly fresh when you show up on campus.
And it is a requirement to have some sort of quantitative reasoning course on campus while you're here. Part of your general education requirements are what's commonly referred to as Call-and-Aid. And so either algebra, which is what I had to take as a business major, or some sort of general math. So it definitely, you don't want to let that skill go, absolutely.
And I will say this, currently, I mean, and we're pretty happy with this decision. We've looked at it and it seems to be working for us. If a student shows up on campus with a math ACT of 26 or the SAT equivalent of that, we'll just give them credit for college algebra. And we're completely comfortable with that because those students, we've watched them, they do fine. If they go ahead and take trig, they seem to do fine. So that's a reason for high school students to take that ACT serious. Because you could get college credit just by doing decent on it. And the same thing's true with English. I don't know the cutoffs, but I know that if you do well enough on English, you do well enough on English, you get credit for an English course or two. So.
Yep, you'll get that English 100, which,
Right.
yeah, if you can knock that out of the park, that's really good. Yeah. So speaking of courses, a lot of students want to know, are they going to jump in on their freshman year and are they going to start taking their courses for their major right away? Or do they take 2 years of gen eds and then do their majors?
I would say that, before a first-year student gets here, they're going to meet with their advisor, and they're going to plan out that the first semester and the second semester, to get an idea of what classes they may want to take and what's needed for their major. I would say with most majors, they're going to take at least one course that's going to be required in that field for the major or the minor, because there's usually a 100, 200 level like introductory class for that major and minor, and they should expect to take that. But it's not going to put them too far behind, I believe, if they do end up taking their culinary courses their first year, especially for the number of students who come in who are not decided and they're exploratory.
Yes.
I typically, as advisor, would try to get a student into at least one major course, if they know what minor, one minor course, or one course towards their minor. That way they can start judging whether they still agree with their decision. Now, we tend to be very sequential in our coursework, so it takes, there's kind of a, you have to take this and then you have to take that. So really you can't squeeze our major very easily into 2 years. So I kind of discourage that. Take all your gen ed and then try to take your, and there's a lot of the sciences that are the same way. You have to take things kind of in sequence. So I would probably, as a science person, math person, discourage that 2 years of gen ed and then start doing it. But you can definitely get going, provided that you're ready to go. That would be my perspective. What I tend to see with students over the years is that their grades they start at a certain level and they kind of hold steady or drop off as the courses get harder. So we try to do a good job placing students in the right course so that they can succeed on that first course. And they're not always happy about that. If we refer a student back to trigonometry, for example, when they want to take calculus, I understand them wanting to get through it as fast as possible. It costs money to go to school. I understand that. But in my mind, it's better for you to get an A in trig than it is to get a C in Calc 1. Because C is the lowest grade that will let you go to the next course. I'd rather you start with A's and then keep making A's. So we do have a fairly rigorous placement system in place for all the math courses.
And there's some wiggle room too at the beginning of your freshman year. I know, for example, just from my own personal experience, again, it varies between each department, but with business, for example, you take an earlier business course, and if you don't know what you want to major in, or perhaps you're thinking about changing it, it's good, like you said, just to take a class kind of right earlier, maybe that first, maybe second semester, to see if that is the right path for you. Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure if either of you guys have been faculty of gone on a study abroad trip, maybe?
I have not.
You have not? Oh, man. I see that we get emails for all of the faculty and staff. I'm like, oh, why can't I go on one of these trips? But students really want to know about study abroad experiences, and I think it's so important and such an important time to learn about global experiences and making those global connections. We have a lot of study abroad opportunities here at WKU, and we go to if you didn't know, we go to every single continent except for Antarctica, because I don't know who would ever go there. But we go to every single continent. We go to over 42 countries. There's a lot of opportunities for study abroad. Have you guys ever, maybe not study abroad, but have you gone abroad, and can you speak to the benefit for a student to learn abroad?
I feel like I'm having this conversation with my friends every day about how I need to get my visa and go, my passport and go, abroad. So I can't answer that question. What about you?
I've had the opportunity to visit other countries, going to conferences. I've actually taken students to other countries.
Oh, well, that's
not truly for credit study abroads, but it was still, I think, a learning experience for me and for them to see how other countries view us, how they interact with us. And it's very eye-opening. Now, those experiences I'm describing are kind of rare. These are study abroad in itself is a little expensive. I'm not anti-study abroad, but there's a price tag. I think we do a very good job actually at WKU of exposing you to people from other cultures while you're here.
Yes.
The math department alone, we have about 34 faculty, I think, and we have faculty from 10 different nations of origin.
Yeah.
And men, women, we're as diverse as I could ever imagine us being, and it's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And boy, the potlucks are awesome. Let me tell you, all that food is just great. So I think coming to WKU, even if you don't get that study abroad, which I hope you do, it is a neat experience, I think you still will find yourself surrounded by students from other cultures, from other countries, and find yourself learning a bit about, again, how countries view us and as opposed to how we view ourselves, which is a good experience, I think.
Yeah, I really like that you brought up that point, because we house more than 1,400 international students on our campus, representing over 79 countries, which is fantastic. And it's right here in our own backyard to get those global experiences. And luckily, if you still have that itch to go travel abroad, which I always recommend to students, because I will never, ever, ever in my life get paid to go to Costa Rica for 6 months. Scholarship opportunities are abundant at WKU. I personally always recommend to a student, if you know that study abroad is something that you might be interested in, go to our study abroad office your first semester on campus and chit-chat with a counselor there about the types of trips that you're looking for. Do you want to go for a week? Do you want to go for a semester? Do you want to go for a year? Do you want to live on a cruise ship and take classes on a boat, and every weekend you're getting off into a brand new country, because we have that called Semester at Sea. It's easier to plan the earlier that you start thinking about it. So absolutely. Now, do you provide, I'm going to shift gears back to the class. Oh man, I was like up in Paris is where I went. I'm going to come back here into the class and education aspect, and note-taking is a great place to take this. Do you guys expect all of your students, when they're in the classroom, to sit down, have a pen and paper or a laptop perhaps, and take notes for themselves? Do you provide notes? I know you said you hand out some of the ones that you write. As far as note-taking go, what are your policies, and maybe some common policies that you know amongst the professors here?
Well, I would say, of course, every faculty member is going to have in their syllabus their technology policy, but I found that most faculty members are especially dependent upon the course, because some courses it's not necessary to have your computer or your tablet all the time, but many are welcoming to having some sort of laptop, tablet, to assist with note-taking. Some, it just varies on the lesson that day. For me, I would encourage the student, when they're note-taking, to definitely pay attention to the key points. Pay attention to what the instructor says multiple times, things that they reiterate, you have long discussion on, and what may be highlighted on Blackboard or on a PowerPoint. And then ask questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I have done various things on notes. I'm very sympathetic to students who aren't great note takers, because I was a student who was not a great note taker, and would frequently find myself either copying down what was being presented or listening, and I didn't seem to be able to do both. So I think I've decided that listening and contributing and engaging in class is what I want them to do, and I'm more than happy to provide the notes. So I've kind of gone from providing the notes ahead of time, and they can just bring them and annotate them as they go, or now I tend to post them after, and so they can take their own notes during class and then add my notes to them to kind of fill in gaps and things like that. But I would much rather have a student answer a question than frantically writing to try to. I mean, in my lifetime, I've had faculty that were writing with one hand and erasing with the other.
Oh.
And it's just like, it was impossible to keep up with.
Yeah.
And I want to add there is that it also depends on the student, because some students like to take detailed notes, whereas others will draw out like key points. So it's important for the student to know what helps them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm very much an Audible learner as well, and I knew some students would ask their professors if they could record the materials, and every professor is different, of course, but so they could get that both of that experience, absolutely. But yeah, you're right. You need to figure out what is your style, absolutely. And kind of off of that as well, if students do have issues with, they need some extra help with their note-taking, get in contact with our resources, our Student Accessibility Resource Center, which is an awesome resource for those students who need those additional accommodations. And note-taking is certainly one of those things that those students can get those additional resources as well. Now, to shift gears a little bit to extracurricular activities, some students are very interested in getting involved, particularly with Greek life. Were either of you guys part of Greek life when you were in college?
I was not. No.
Well, I am a member of a service sorority. It's called Gamma Sigma Sigma. I know that usually when a student's asking about Greek life, they are particularly thinking about social sororities and fraternities, and we do have those here at WKU. We have many of them, actually. We have our Pan-Hellenic sororities, our Interfraternity Council, which is the fraternities, and then we have our National Pan-Hellenic Council, which is the NPHC. Yes. So we have a lot to choose from in terms of fraternities and sororities, which will definitely give students a lot of opportunity to learn leadership skills, team building, and I've read studies where it said that students are involved on campus not only with Greek life, but with student organizations. They're pretty successful in college. Yeah,
getting involved is incredibly important for the success of students. Whether it is in some sort of organization, we have over 300 registered organizations on our campus for a variety of different things. And if you can't find one that you feel like you fit in with, you can start your own, which is pretty cool. Yes. But also on-campus employment is a great way to get involved, to learn people maybe in a department or something like that.
Well, and that's what I did when I was a student. I worked as an RA.
Okay, yeah.
For 3 years in Pierce Ford Tower. And I have to tell you, and again, I'm not being paid by housing to say that was really an incredible learning experience as far as people skills, leadership skills, just basic things about how to react when people are acting weird. Yeah. And so a lot of the skills that I use now as department head, really, when I look back, those were skills I started developing as a resident assistant at Pierce Ford Tower. Yeah, and they paid me, which was nice too.
Yes, well, that payment is what's really very nice. And for those of you guys watching that are unsure of what an RA is, it is somebody. Yeah, if you want to explain what your job
assistants, was. And the setups are different in all the residence halls, but these are folks who kind of I don't want to say monitor, but they're in charge of kind of making sure things are running smooth in a particular area of the residence hall. And it's really not a policeman kind of thing at all. It's more or less just a kind of a hired troubleshooter. If there's things going wrong, they kind of make sure. If there's a disruption of a study type atmosphere, they work with that. If there's conflicts between students, they kind of work with that. And they're students, so these aren't grown-ups. These are just like you. They're students. So it's kind of a peer mentoring kind of situation.
Yeah, that must have been a really, really great job.
I had fun as an RA.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, every now and then, not so much. But some Saturday nights were not fun. But generally, I had a good time.
That's awesome. And for those of you guys just tuning in, we are here with some of our current faculty asking questions for incoming students. And so I'm going to change gears back to academia here. And this is huge, particularly in the state of Kentucky. And I see it growing more and more throughout other states. And that's dual credit, the opportunity to take those classes while you're in high school. And students coming in want to know, is my dual credit going to fulfill my gen ed requirements? Is it going to transfer? And what advice do you guys have for students taking those courses?
Well, I'll let you handle that one.
Okay. Well, by and large, if it's dual credit that's offered through WKU, then the answer to that question, yes. This is definitely will satisfy general education requirements. If it's offered by another school, then it would depend on whether or not we accept that school's course, not the dual credit course, their college course. So, but if we do accept their college course that they're offering as dual credit, then we would accept that credit as well.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who do have those dual credit classes and you're wondering how may they transfer, you are more than welcome to reach out to the WKU Office of Admissions, and we will sort of act as a liaison between ourselves and the advising center and making sure that we can look into that for you. We'll just need to know where you took the dual credit course from and the course number, and we'll let you know a little bit about how that's going to transfer. Additionally, a lot of students are taking AP classes in high school, and that's a great opportunity to earn college credit. And on our website, we actually have a form that has a list of every single AP exam on there, and it will tell you what course credit you'll receive for what score that you got on that AP exam. I will tell you most of those scores are going to have to be a 3 or higher. Sometimes if you get a 4 or 5, you might get credit for 2 classes. But usually the best way to find it is if you Google, because Google's my best friend, WKU credit by exam, and it's going to pull up that form for you. Otherwise, you can get in contact with the WKU Office of Admissions, and we will check into what that AP score gets you. Yes.
But yeah. You brought up a good point, and the name says it, but I want to stress it because sometimes I think students think that they just take the AP course, that should transfer in, and that's not the way that AP works. AP courses, you get credit by passing those exams. So if you're taking an AP course, go ahead and plan now to take that exam. That's some of the cheapest credits you will ever earn. I forget what the tests are, but they're very light compared to tuition.
Very affordable.
Yeah, very affordable. Right.
Yeah. Now, during the semester, on average, maybe particularly with your classes, maybe on average that you know with experience, how often can a student expect to be doing homework every single night?
Well, I do encourage students to, no matter what, look over what they learned that day in class when they get in the afternoon. I know a lot of students don't do that, but I would definitely encourage them to do that. And then homework is going to vary depending on the type of class. And Bruce can speak to this. I'm sure some of the classes that have labs and math may have more homework than others. If there's a lot of reading, they may expect to have a few hours of homework. And then a lot of students are going to schedule theirs differently. They may not study or do that homework that night because they may not have that class the next day. So, you know, I would say to, I don't know, study at least 9 hours a week outside of the classroom. Schedule a few hours each day to review what you've learned, and some on the weekend.
Yes.
That's just my opinion.
The weekend, absolutely.
That's great advice. I love the idea of looking things over after the class, and then also I know I kind of lead students into what we're going to be doing next time, so looking things over so they're ready for class. The one thing I guess what I would add to that is that, and particularly in the area I'm in, you can work for hours and hours and hours and get nowhere. And what you want to have is productive struggle. You don't want it given to you, but on the other hand, sometimes a slight nudge can really get you going. And so many times I've had students say, man, I worked on this for 5 hours, I got nowhere. And I said, oh, did you try this? And they're like, oh, darn. So if they'd had that, what'd that take? Like 5 seconds to say that. So if they'd had that 5-second nudge, they would have had a much productive time and spent less time on their homework.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings up a really wonderful question, and I think it opens the door for students to understand a little bit about you as professors, to be there to help them. They're not just going to come to the classroom and then never see you again until next Tuesday. Right. What do you guys do to set up communication, particularly maybe if they're struggling, outside of the classroom?
Well, for me, on the first day of class, have a pretty transparent conversation with the student, let them know what they should expect the entire semester. We have a few activities that we do because it's for first year students. This is their first class in many cases at college. So we have a few activities so they can get to know each other better. They can feel comfortable talking to each other in the classroom because the way the class is set up, there's a lot of communication with their fellow classmates. So we do a few things to break the ice. And I reinforce the idea of them communicating with me and being available as their instructor to answer questions.
Do you have office hours outside of that classroom
Yes,
for them then?
yes. And every faculty member is going to have office hours on their syllabus unless they teach online, and they'll be available usually via email and Blackboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think available is the key word there, and it's what I've stressed with my faculty in the math department is, I don't have a minimum office hour that number of office hours I expect them to be there, but I want them to be available between classes. So if a student needs them, they can get their ear. That could mean that they, can say, hey, I'll take Skype during these hours, or if you send me a text and we're near the same place on campus, we're lucky. We don't, as mathematicians, we don't have labs. We have coffee shops. So if a student sends me a text or sends me an email saying, can you help me with this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Are you at Java City? I'm right here. I got coffee. I'm ready. I feel like doing math. Let's do it. So
that's not what happens.
So that's what I've stressed to my faculty. Just be available.
Yeah.
We're blessed with all these electronic means to communicate with each other. And so as long as a student feels like they have the opportunity to get some help between a class and the next class, I'm cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important too that the student recognizes that we're human too. And so not to see us as scary people that they can't come to and talk to. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think faculty are your best resource on campus.
Absolutely.
We generally have asked the questions, so we probably know the answer, maybe. And when we do, we're so happy about it. It's like, I knew the answer. I can work it out. Okay. So, there are all kinds of help centers on campus. We have a tutoring center for mathematics. But really, that faculty member is going to be your best resource, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings up a really great point, and students ask this a lot, is if they do have a disability or they need additional resources, how do you set up in your classroom how you can help those students out? What are your policies for those students?
Well, the university has a policy, and we have a wonderful student accessibility resource center available to any student who has a disability, and they can go there and talk to them, and usually they will provide some type of documentation to the faculty member. And it's been my experience that any student I have that has a disability will come up to me after the first day of class, and we'll talk about that and any special needs they have for a test or an exam, and how to prepare for that. And we'll just go over anything that will help them during the semester.
Yeah, generally students will have gone through that process, will provide us with an accommodations document that we agree to, and then we, if that means extra time on exams, if that means larger print exams and homeworks, I'm always willing to do whatever it takes to help a student learn, and I've never known that to be an issue as long as it's done up front. If we coming back a few weeks into the semester saying, oh, by the way, my first test should have had more time. It's like, well, you should have told me. I can't go back in time yet, but still working on it. But I think we have pretty decent support for disabled students on campus.
Absolutely, and if you are a student who needs some additional resources, the WKU Office of Admissions is here to help you get in contact with the Student Accessibility Resource Center. So please reach out to us and we'll make sure that you will go through the process to get set up for success during your classes. Now, on average, an average class size, particularly in your departments, what do you see in class size? Is it 200 people in a big old lecture hall?
No,
okay.
It's not.
Okay.
My university experience class has about 22 students. I think the cap is 25 students. My social justice class has about 12 students, usually between 12 to 15. 15 is the cap. And then I do teach online. Right now I have a spring course online. Now, online classes are different, so I have 30 students in that.
Okay.
There are courses on campus like you described.
Very rare, though. Very rare.
There's not a ton, but there are some larger classes. I think biology department may offer some of their general education coursework through large sections like that. In mathematics, we don't have any large sections like that. Our largest classes are probably topped out at about 45 students.
Okay.
And that would be in like college algebra or applied college algebra, something like that. And then as you go up to higher level math courses, it's going to start to get closer to 30, and then 400 level courses, you know, maybe down in the single digits, maybe.
Yeah.
And with some of the larger classes, I can't speak for all of them, but some of the larger classes, if they meet and their lecture is 100 students, they probably also have a lab that has a smaller group, maybe
That's
about
true.
15 or
That's a good
20
point.
students.
Yeah.
So they may
additional
offer,
support.
they offer those larger group settings because they know they're going to have the smaller classes as well.
Yeah.
And the large classes, we don't offer them. But the thing I'm kind of learning is large classes in and of themselves aren't necessarily bad.
No,
Some people
yeah.
are really good at teaching large classes.
Yes.
It's all about engagement. And so I've seen some very talented instructors using clickers, and nowadays we don't even have to buy a clicker. Use your phone, and we have software to do this. But there's really no way for someone to, unless they're really working at it, not be engaged in the class, because they're constantly asking questions, okay, now we've said this, now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
And so you're connecting the dots here for the content in the class. And it's really, what I've seen is pretty impressive, because the students will start arguing with each other about stuff in the class and try and convince each other that they're right.
Yes.
Well, man, as a teacher, that's fantastic. I can't even get that going sometimes in a small class.
Yeah.
So to see that going on in large class is fantastic. So I think it really goes to the strength of the instructor in knowing how to engage students, even though you've got a lot of them.
Yeah, I had a microeconomics class. I will never forget the course, because we were sitting there on the first day of class, and all of a sudden we hear like music, like pump up music, and he had his own intro music every day
I
to
love
come into
intro
class.
music.
He had one of those microphones that were like this, and he was super engaged. It felt like I was watching a stand-up comedy routine every time I was in class. So I had a blast. If you're watching, you're a really good professor, Dr. Wilson. He was really great. So yeah, it was a fantastic class. So yes, I agree with you. I think there's a perception that larger classes are bad. Our average class size here at WKU is only 18, so we do like to keep average class size a little bit smaller, but very rarely you might take a larger course, but it's fun. Another question that students are starting to ask in is actually a little bit about our marching band. And so I was not part of the marching band. Did you guys have any experience with the marching band? It's a pretty fantastic marching band on campus. And I believe any student that's marched before is welcome to be on the marching band. And they can get in contact with the marching band department about how they can go ahead setting up just a performance for them prior to entering.
Scott Harris is the department head of music.
Yes,
and,
yes.
Would love to hear from you regarding that. Scott.harris@wku.edu.
Yeah, I've had students in the marching band, and they really enjoy it.
Yes, yes. And you're pretty good of a musician yourself, right? A guitar player?
As a musician, I'm a fabulous mathematician.
That's good. Okay, so a little personal question here. What do you feel is the best part of teaching?
To me, graduation. I absolutely love the first day of class and then seeing those students graduate. But those are all very important to me. And it's that graduation day that inspires me each day in the classroom. And we talk quite a bit about that. So I love the interaction with the students, and I love knowing that each day they're one step closer to accomplishing their personal and academic goals. And to me, that matters. That matters to me quite a bit. So that's the best part, is seeing them succeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And I've been lucky to be able to stay in contact with some of the students that I've had through the years through Facebook and other means, and it's really neat to see the change, how they've grown up, how they've become more confident in their abilities, and are successful. And so I agree that watching them become something and thinking, maybe helped with that, or maybe I didn't, I don't know, but I'm still taking credit for it, doggone it. No, it is really cool to watch students take what you've given them and then just roll with it, and that is fantastic. I love that part of teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you guys watching, we are talking to some of our faculty, our professors here on campus, trying to get an idea of what it's like in the classroom. So if you're just tuning in and you have a question about being on a college campus and taking a class, please comment below your questions and we will be sure to answer them. One question coming in is a little bit about orientation, and that's something that we call the Topper Orientation Program, or what's commonly referred to as TOP. The registration for all students incoming for fall of 2018 is actually going to be opening here up on February 1st. So if you're a student and you're wanting to get registered for classes, that's going to be the day that you actually come to campus. You're going to register for your courses. You'll meet with an advisor. You'll learn different information about financial aid, housing, meal plans, all the essential things that you will need to be set up for the fall of 2018. Watch out in your email saying, hey, TOP is open, registration is open, and then we're actually going to have our TOP dates 2 a month starting in April, and we will run them through the summer. The earlier you register for TOP and the earlier you come to your TOP date, the better, because classes fill up over the summer, so more options is always better, and so make sure you stay informed by looking at your email or, of course, our WKU Office of Admissions social media posts. Here's a great question that we just received, and I'm very excited about this question, and I'm very curious about the answer. What is the policy about eating in class? Do you guys have rules? Do you allow people to just bring in some Starbies, some muffins?
Well, I actually don't have any problem at all with food in class, but I will say that there's some buildings on campus, and depending on the classroom, you can't have food in the class. But it's so funny that you bring this up, because I had a student in my class last spring, and the class met over lunchtime. So she always brought her lunch, and it was some type of healthy snack, and we'd always have conversations about it. She'd have kale, and I mean, we just talk about it. So I think a student should definitely find out from their instructor if there's any issues with that in the classroom. But I would think that many instructors wouldn't have problems with that.
Was it Alilo? Is that where she got the kale from?
It may have been.
It's up in the food court on the top of the hill, and it's from Kat Cora, who's an Iron Chef, and she has her own restaurant here on campus, and it is very delicious, and it's also very healthy. So I didn't know kale could be delicious until I had that. So good for her. Yeah. What about you?
I would say there's not a policy for that. It's really up to the instructor, and so just kind of see how they feel about it. I'm like you. I don't care. I realize a lot of these students are grabbing lunch because they've got to get to another class, and so or maybe they've got to get to work or whatever it is. So as long as I'm allowed to grab a fry as I walk by, I'm good.
And usually, like you said, as long as there's not a computer in the classroom or some sort of lab, I personally didn't have too much.
Labs, I can almost guarantee you.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Some sort of computer course, probably not, just for the safety of the equipment. So absolutely. Another question that we're receiving in is, will I meet with an advisor here at TOP when I attend that orientation program? You will be meeting with an advisor towards the end of the day. It may not be your advisor for the rest of your college career, but it will be somebody within your college, and particularly maybe somebody who's you might be an advisor for your major. So they're going to be informed on what the requirements are for your major. And so you will be meeting with them and registering for classes the day of TOP. And a really random question that we just got in is, it's not random because we're on the topic, is an advisor going to be a professor that you may have on campus? And the answer really is, it depends on each department.
That's correct.
Does the math department, do they advise and teach?
We have sent professors down for that, but currently we use math ambassadors for that. We have student ambassadors that in talking to our incoming students, and we had these students there with us as I was advising. They seemed to be much more comfortable talking to the students themselves than the old guy, the old professor dude. So we have got our math advisors, our math ambassadors advising students. They know the program well. They seem to have a good rapport with the students. And if there are any deep questions, we have designated advisors in the area who probably do know the answer to those questions. we're kind of going to a system where the hard parts to me in advising are the front end when you show up and then the finish line.
Yes.
And so we're kind of moving to a system where we have people, designated folks, kind of get you going, and then at the end of that first year, we're going to match make you up with or you can choose with an advisor in the department who will then start to talk to you about career options and what course should you, what pathways should you be taking in the major. You have options, so which do you want to go more applied, more pure? What are your career goals? And then we have folks who help us if there's issues at the end. If you're coming up a course short because something didn't transfer in, or if we need to make some kind of exception, we thought this counted but it didn't, then we have folks who help us with that as well.
Absolutely. So if you're just tuning in, we're here talking to faculty, professors here on campus, and they are answering questions about what it is like to be in a WKU classroom. So if you have questions, make sure you are commenting below, and we will get those questions answered. A great question for students, particularly if they have some issues with time, is what happens if a student is late to the classroom?
That's going to be different per instructor. I've heard stories of instructors who, have a cutoff time, like they'd like you being in class, within this certain time frame, because it's really important. But I would just encourage every student to be on time, because you never know what you're going to miss by coming in late. And in many cases, everyone in class may have to pause. If you come in. So I would definitely encourage you to come in late. Don't be planning already to be late for class.
Yes.
That's really important.
I would agree. I think it goes by faculty member, but at least in my case, you may miss some really good stuff if you're 10 minutes late, because the cool stuff I may start with that. We may be in a math modeling class, we may be dropping slinkies or shooting Nerf darts across the room or something. That's the fun part. So be there and be ready to go. I think by and large people understand if something comes up. So you might just want to, at the end of class, say, hey, look, I'm really sorry about that. I had captured another professor to ask him a question about the test, and I was afraid to let go of him, or I was afraid I wouldn't get the answer. So there's typically reasons. I don't like these policies just say, people have reasons for doing stuff. Now, if you just can't get out of bed at 8 o'clock, come on, man, you can do better than that.
Yeah.
And I have had students before who have told me in the beginning of the semester, hey, I may be late sometimes because I'm coming from work, or I have a class that's on South Campus or at the very bottom of the hill, and it's a little bit longer than 15 minutes in between my classes. So letting the faculty member know in advance is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being transparent, and if you have a legitimate reason for showing up late, everyone's going to understand. I want to bring the conversation back to a little bit about the first day of classes, especially for freshmen. You teach a class that is designated for freshmen. I want to talk a little bit about how that day is structured. What can they expect for that first day? Are they going to have a lot of material just right in that beginning first day class?
Well, for my class, which is university experience, and I would think it's like this for most classes, as Bruce mentioned earlier, you're going to go over your syllabus, which is the outline of your semester. It's going to talk about your learning objectives, your required textbook and other materials. It may even go over your assignments, how the grading works, how to reach your instructor. So you're going to go over that document very clearly, and that may take some time because you may have questions. There may be some instructors who have some assignments that day, go over a little bit of material, but for the most part, you're definitely going to go over that syllabus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think students should show up ready to work on that first day, just in case.
Yep.
And I tend to try to lay out some of the things, once we've got that syllabus talked about, lay out some of the things I plan to do during the semester, and maybe get them started on the first thing. So it's definitely not just a show up and listen kind of day, for me anyway.
Right, right. I liked that when professors in their syllabus, they'd have a list of all the dates of everything to expect for the rest of the semester. So I'd go home and I'd take my planner out and I'd say, okay, test on this day, and I'd write it down, and that was really nice to see the whole course all on that first day was really nice.
Never been able to do that, but I think that's it's an admirable goal.
Yes, it's really nice. Okay, so another question that we get from students is, when do we move in on campus? And that's a fantastic question. Obviously, we have a requirement for our freshmen and our sophomores to live on campus if they're a full-time student attending WKU Bowling Green campus. And so we typically allow students to move in the weekend before classes start. However, we do provide an opportunity for incoming students, their first-time year students, to actually come to campus a week before classes start. And it's something called Master Plan. It is a fantastic program to get acclimated to the campus, to meet other students, to talk with faculty, to get involved with the community. I know they have some service projects sometimes that they do, some fun concerts. I saw pictures of glow sticks one year. They had a glow stick party, which looked like a blast. And so that's an opportunity where you can actually move in a full week before the classes start. So yeah, absolutely. So back to the classroom, I want to talk about seating arrangements in the classroom. Now, do you have assigned seats? I know a lot of high school students, they have assigned seating. If they sit in that front row, are they going to be better, more well-educated? What are your thoughts about sitting in the classroom?
Well, I would say that no matter where you sit, you're going to have the opportunity to learn the same thing that everyone else does in the class. I would say that it's encouraged to sit closer to the front if you want to pay attention. You want to pay attention,
yes,
but if you want to make sure you see everything clearly, you're not distracted by anyone who may sit in front of you. So a lot of students do take advantage of sitting up front so they can connect more with the teacher, make sure they have clear understanding, and there's no distractions. So a lot of people do say that. But I've found that some students do like to sit in the middle or in the back. I encourage students to sit closer to the front whenever they can.
I personally do not use a seating chart or require students to sit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the reason I think teachers do that in some cases is so they can learn the names better.
Yes. Yeah.
And that could be a big deal in a large class, so I'm not anti the practice. I've just never followed it. I just keep trying to get some connection with the students so I can remember their name, and hopefully, after 4 or 5 months, I've got them.
Yeah, absolutely. So our last question for the evening is we're going to shift gears to talk a little bit about the Honors College. We have the Mehuron Honors College here on campus, which is a fantastic opportunity for students who are looking for an alternative learning experience. And I say the word alternative because some of the classes are just really fun, discussion-based courses that are a little bit smaller in size. They're a little bit more in-depth in material, and so it is definitely a unique experience in those classrooms. Do any of you teach honors courses personally?
I don't teach any honors courses.
I haven't.
You haven't?
I have not.
Yeah, and if you come across a professor, particularly in your major, for example, my major was entrepreneurship, and so it was a smaller program, and there wasn't a designated honors course within that program. But the professors in that program were more than willing to let me augment the class. So say
Now
perhaps, yeah, absolutely. So do you want to talk a little bit about augmenting one of your classes for honor credit?
It typically turns into taking the contents of the course or some aspect of the course and delving a little bit deeper into it. And whenever possible, I like to try to turn that into a small in-state conference presentation, if we could, and have them not just present it to the class, but present it to other faculty in my discipline around the state. And those sometimes turn into bigger projects. If there's something really cool going on, then we'll just kind of keep going. But I think that's the idea of honors courses to begin with, is not necessarily to do more work, but to take what you're doing and look at it in a deeper sense. Kind of dig down a little deeper than you would in a normal class. So it's not like these students typically would do 20 problems. Your honor students, you'll do 40. No, that's not the point. It's okay. Students understand, in our general classes, they would understand this concept. Now I'm going to give you a little twist, and we're going to take it a little deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the idea behind the honors classes and the honors augmentations.
Yeah, and I personally, and I don't say this to be demeaning, actually, I found my honors classes to be a little bit easier because I'm a little bit more chatty of a person, and so having a discussion base. My favorite honors course was something called Women in Antiquity, and we sat around, there was only 5 people in the classroom, we sat around a table like this, and we just chatted every class about old literature that had women and strong female characters and how that impacts society today. And it's one class that I remember many years later. So the Honors College is a wonderful time. Unfortunately, the application for the fall of 2018 Honors College has already passed. That was a December 1st deadline. But students who are coming in for their sophomore, junior year can certainly apply for the Honors College later on in their college career. So this seems like something that might be interesting to you. Please reach out to the Honors College to learn more, or of course the WKU Office of Admissions. I want to say thank you both for being here and answering all these questions. I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity for students to hear what an actual classroom is like, so thank you so much.
It was fun. Thank you for having us.
And a huge thank you for WKU PBS for hosting us. This is not my own personal kitchen. This is actually a wonderful studio, has won multiple Emmys. Shout out to WKU PBS. Thank you so much. And for those of you tuning in, thank you for tuning in and watching, and we hope to see you soon here on the Hill.